good. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm Scott Maxwell, columnist for the Orlando Sentinel, and I am really glad to be with you tonight for the first ever virtual super duper fundraiser for IDignity. You know, this fundraiser has a special place in my heart. In fact, a few years ago, I actually won the super duper cook-off with some of this great tomato soup that Steve Gunter and I made. It was really special. However, you shouldn't wait 3 years to have the leftovers. Okay, so obviously things are a little different this year. You're in your house or maybe with friends, I'm in mine, but the cause is still the same great cause and the need is the same need that has persisted in this community for a long time. You know, it took me a while to appreciate everything IDignity does. I said before that the definition of privilege is when something doesn't strike you as a problem until it's a problem for you. Well, a lack of identification is a problem for a whole world of people that don't otherwise get attention. But IDignity has always been there for 12 years now, being there to support those folks and help get them back on the map. That's why I'm really proud to have worked with IDignity for so long, and I'm really honored that you are here with us tonight. Now, before we do anything else, I want to say thanks to tonight's sponsors. Our lead sponsor, the City of Orlando and Advent Health. Also our restaurant partners, Orlando Meats, Swine & Sons, and the Tap Room at Dubstred. And then a special thanks to Central 28 and ABC Fine Wine and Spirits. Now, listen, before we do anything else, I need to change. You guys kind of showed up before I was ready. I'm not even in my gala attire. So I'm going to go change. But while I do that, you're going to hear from IDignity's board chair, Phil Henry.
Thanks, Scott. 3-year-old soup, though? I got a fresh pot of tomato basil right here if you want some. As the chair of IDignity's board of directors, we welcome you to our first ever super duper virtual event. On behalf of the board, our amazing staff, and the most compassionate volunteers, welcome to our super duper event. I'm extremely excited to tell you about this mission that has transformed the Central Florida community by restoring dignity and hope to our less fortunate neighbors. Imagine an organization that can help lift a family out of poverty, prevent a person from sleeping on the streets, or help someone secure employment. IDignity does all these things by helping people prove who they are and obtain their legal identification. Photo identification is an often overlooked necessity in daily life. People without photo ID have difficulty accessing the critical services and benefits that help them move out of poverty. Without legal identification, you can't access a bank account, you can't get a loan or even cash a check. You legally can't obtain employment without showing a photo ID and proof of your social security number. You can't pursue an education, get proper health care, or even secure a place to live or get married. To be a productive member of society, you need identification. Unfortunately, the most recent credible study estimates that 11% of adult US citizens do not currently possess a valid government-issued photo ID. That is over 25 million of our fellow Americans. The big catch-22 is to get identification, you need to have identification. To get your ID, you need your birth certificate, a social security number, proof of residence, and proof of any name change like a marriage certificate. But to get your birth certificate or social security card, you need a photo ID. I could keep going and going with examples like this. And don't forget, there's a cost for these documents. It takes time, you need patience, you need transportation. In many instances, you need an attorney. For so many, it can be frustrating and intimidating, and sometimes legally impossible for a person to apply for these necessary forms of ID. IDignity mitigates this problem by providing legal representation, covering expenses, and bringing together government agencies like the Florida Department of Motor Vehicles, Orange County Health Department, the Orange County Tax Collector, and the Social Security Administration under one roof. For the past 12 years, IDignity has become a beacon of hope to those most vulnerable in our community. We have successfully assisted over 23,000 individuals in obtaining their identification document. That's 23,000 lives that were changed as doors were opened to education, employment, housing, healthcare, banking, and other opportunities to be productive citizens. IDignity accomplishes its mission by collaborating with over 100 nonprofits, government agencies, churches and businesses, along with over 15,000 hours a year of dedicated volunteer engagement. As an IDignity volunteer, I've assisted veterans who have served their country but lost their identification and have had no access to the financial benefits and government assistance that they deserve. I've met young men and women who had had job offers but couldn't obtain employment until they had their appropriate identification. And I've met survivors of domestic abuse who were trying to better their life but needed an ID to restart. While each client has their own unique story, they share a common frustration. They were unable to overcome this issue on their own. Having access to our identification is a privilege most of us take for granted. It is the first and most important step to breaking down the barriers of equality to those in need. It is how we reintroduce trust and inspire hope. IDignity is grateful for the support of thousands of individuals who have invested their time and money for this mission. Here are 3 of those individuals who have made IDignity a priority in their lives.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to Super Duper. I'm Commissioner Patty Shannon. I'm very excited to support this organization more now than ever.
Hi, all the Super Duper attendees out there. This is Scott Randolph, your Orange County tax collector.
Hi, I'm Sheriff John Mina from the Orange County Sheriff's Office. I'm very excited to be involved in the Super Duper event once again. And I'm a big fan of IDignity and everything they do for the people in our community.
IDignity often serves people who have very complicated situations. And are sometimes some of the most vulnerable in our population.
There are many people in our community for whatever reason, because they lost their job, because they may be homeless, because they could have been a victim of a crime, that have lost important documents, identification, social security card, birth certificates. These are all things that I take for granted. But if you are missing those documents, you cannot get a job. You can't cash a paycheck. You can't open a bank account.
The idea of having an ID is something that a lot of people take for granted, almost as a nuisance when they have to go down and renew their driver's license or do anything at one of our offices. But having an ID is an absolutely critical function of participating in today's society.
So what IDignity does is so critically important because they have professional people that know how to access birth records, all those things that people need in order to get identification, in order to access services.
IDignity is an invaluable part of our community and the operations of the Orange County Tax Collector. We could not do our job without IDignity.
As the current sheriff, the former chief of police in Orlando, and being a law enforcement officer for 30 years, I can tell you that being able to identify someone in the furtherance of investigating crimes, or even just to help someone out who's down on their luck, is extremely important and valuable.
I need to rely on local not-for-profits to be able to help me to assist people. And IDignity does an amazing job of that by helping people access the records that they need to access the services they do. I'd love to be able to do everything, but you know what? Sometimes it's nice to not have to be Wonder Woman and to be able to refer a group to a super group that does super duper like IDignity.
From the moment that I heard about IDignity's mission, which was years ago, and the things that I've seen them do for people in our community, I have been a big fan of IDignity. I've always supported them. I'm going to continue to support them. I'm asking all of you to do the same. I'm telling you, this is a great organization, and it helps people every single day in this community.
Those of us that are fortunate enough to be able to work virtually, we still need to give back to those less fortunate now more than ever, because a lot of other folks can't afford to because they've been laid off, because they don't have jobs. So it comes back to us, those of us that are still working, to make sure we keep the really important social service organizations and programs like IDignity going during this very difficult time of COVID.
I know this is a very challenging time for everyone here tonight, but the return on your dollar that IDignity provides to this community is one of the best out there. IDignity provides a critical function to our community for helping people prove who they are, get their IDs, get a job, get the government services that they need, and keeping those dollars in our community. And so obviously this is a tough time, but we need to make sure that IDignity also stays around after this recession and is able to continue to serve our community like they have for the last decade.
That's a whole lot better. And I want to thank all of those folks, the tax collector, sheriff, and commissioner, for being here tonight. Number one, they are great community advocates. Number two, they are past competitors whose tail I whooped in Super Dupers in past year. Now, I'm not saying that I like to gloat about these things. It's not like I live in the past, but oh, I do just happen to have this handy. Now, before I do this last part, I want to make sure I look my best before I introduce this next guy because, well, he's pretty important. I think most of you guys know Michael Dippy. He is a big reason IDignity is the success it is because he has a passion that is absolutely contagious. Not only that, he never wants to stop. He always wants to help more. He always wants to do more. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce the Executive Director of IDignity, Michael Dippy.
Thank you, Scott. You're looking very dapper in that suit tonight.
Well, thank you, Michael. You know, I put this on just for you. And when I say I put this on, I don't just mean fancy pants. I mean any pants. I've really let myself go since this pandemic started.
Well, we all appreciate you wearing pants. Thanks for that. Like Scott and his daily attire, so much has changed over the past year in all of our lives. Certainly, IDignity has had to make significant adjustments, but the mission is still the same: to restore dignity and hope by providing identification. This is where IDignity's mission started for me. It was 2007 and I was arriving to worship at my church when I greeted a homeless man. After we spoke briefly, he asked me if I could help him obtain his ID so he could get a job. I had never thought obtaining an ID could be a problem, yet it certainly was for him. I tried to find a resource to help, but none existed. Thankfully, 34 members of 5 downtown Orlando churches decided to unite and resolve this issue. How hard could it be? Little did we know the scale of the problem nor the complexity, which was probably a good thing. Yet we did know for certain we were going to try to solve this problem. We spent 6 months meeting with government agencies, social service organizations, attorneys, and potential clients to develop a viable model. We called the organization IDignity and scheduled our first monthly event in May of 2008. The root problem of accessing legal identification documents is actually a paradox, in that it inherently must be extremely difficult in order to protect the integrity of the identity that these very documents represent. Yet this can often lead to a catch-22 scenario that an individual cannot overcome on their own. At this point, what they truly need is an advocate, and often an attorney, both of which IDignity provides at no cost to our clients. While our society should not lower the barriers to proving our identity, there needs to be an organization, such as IDignity, that will assist those members of our society that cannot overcome these barriers on their own. To hold monthly events with over 300 people, IDignity requires a big space, such as this gym, where we hosted our events over the past several years. These monthly events brought together over 100 volunteers and attorneys working alongside government agencies to assist up to 250 clients in obtaining legal proof of who they are. About half of the clients receive all of their identification documents in one day. The other half require additional case management to overcome their identification barriers, which typically requires a couple of months, yet sometimes more than a year. While the mission is not easy and can often take a frustratingly long time to accomplish, IDignity has proven to be extremely effective. In fact, for those clients that remain engaged in the process, IDignity is able to successfully assist 96% in obtaining all their various forms of legal identification. The IDignity model of large assembly events with extensive volunteer engagement and government agencies was the perfect solution for addressing the problem of access to legal identification, until the COVID-19 pandemic made it no longer safe nor viable. The suffering our clients face trying to survive without identification is brutal. Even worse when there was no hope of it being resolved because IDignity could no longer assist. With no end in sight of when the pandemic would wane and the number of clients needing help increasing, IDignity had to reinvent its delivery of services quickly. Welcome to Jackie's Place, the new home of IDignity's client services. named in loving memory of IDignity's amazing founding attorney, Jackie Dowd. Paramount to serving clients during a pandemic is extreme safety. We could no longer operate in a large assembly model once a month. So we rented this building to serve dozens of socially distant clients a day, 3 days a week. We also eliminated the line of hundreds of clients by implementing a reservation system. Jackie's place gave us the ability to build out physical protective barriers with plexiglass and intercom system. We were able to maintain extensive cleaning protocols, including ongoing sanitation, disinfectant fogging each night, and even installed UV lights in the air conditioning system. We have further leveraged technology to reduce the amount of time clients need to be on site and the amount of paper forms being exchanged. Technology has also enabled IDignity to maintain ongoing direct collaboration with the government agencies that are no longer able to physically be on site. Most importantly, clients are being served again. IDignity's identification service days are a success. In fact, last month we were able to serve 159 clients. We anticipate that IDignity will be back to our full capacity of serving 250 clients per month before the end of this year. The demand for IDignity's services is increasing as the recession and unemployment rate are causing more individuals to seek assistance, many for their very first time. I have tremendous faith that with your ongoing support, IDignity will continue to flourish and needless human suffering will continue to be prevented even during these challenging times. Dignity will continue to be restored and hope will continue to be provided through the fundamental act of helping individuals prove who they are. The essential services that IDignity provides not only empowers individuals with the ability to better their own lives, it also cultivates a society that is more inclusive, productive, and secure for us all. Such is the story of my friend Axel.
I've always been taught since I was a child that you value an individual not for how they've fallen, but how they get back up. And even though I had fallen many times in my life, this is the longest I've ever went down. I was 4 years old when I legally immigrated here with my mom. I lived in Miami and I lived there for almost all of my young years. So I felt as I've already accomplished a lot in Miami and I wanted to expand. So I came to Orlando in 2010 to expand my business. So on a Friday night, around 10:30 at night, I went to the convenience store right down the street and picked up myself a nice pizza and something to drink. And as I was walking back home at around 11 o'clock at night, I was held at gunpoint. There are no words to describe the feeling of a gun in your face. It still haunts me to today. I see the end of that barrel. All I can think of is, I want to live. What do you want? Just take whatever you need. It wasn't until after all the cops were gone and they gave me the police report and I started thinking about everything that was taken. I don't have a driver's license, nor my social security. I don't have anything to identify myself. I don't have any cash on me. My credit cards are gone. The backpack that I carried with my stuff in it, it's gone. Everything, and I'm making a list and says, oh, I'll go Monday to the DMV and I got this. It's okay. Money, I don't care. I go to the bank, get some money out. I'm all right. It didn't take that much out of me. I canceled the credit cards right away. I wasn't really worried about anything that was stolen because everything is replaceable. The only thing that cannot be replaced is me. And I'm still standing. So come Monday morning, I go to the DMV and to my demise, I hear that I have to resubmit my proof of identity in order to get a gold star on my driver's license. So with all that information, I went back home and I'm thinking, okay, so what's my next step? Because I'm basically on a catch-22. So the very next day I went to the bank to withdraw some money. So I walked in and while everybody is greeting me, went to the same clerk that I've always dealt with. She cannot access my account. I need 2 forms of ID. And even though they know me, they still need to enter those forms of IDs. So I explained what happened and their hands are tied. Now I have no access to my bank account. So now I come to the realization that there are bills coming and I have no access to my money. I have the money to pay these bills, but I have no access to it. Moving forward a month, I've had to give up everything. Car and my townhouse. And I find myself standing in the parking lot where used to be my complex. I started walking direction to downtown Orlando. Still no idea of what I was going to do. So as I'm walking downtown, it dawns on me that my next step is to ask for help. And who better to ask for help than the very representatives of the city, the county. So I went to City Hall.
You know, I meet a lot of people, but interestingly, I do remember this encounter about 8 or 10 years ago. I was walking through the rotunda at City Hall, and there was a citizen there that was in a little bit of a distress, and it turned out I was able to give him a little help.
The mayor, the commissioner, and housing put their heads together. And one of them said, "Have you tried IDignity?" Walking into IDignity was like night and day, where I had already visited several other institutes that they just simply couldn't help me. But here I find myself embraced by individuals, not one, not two, but 5 individuals listening to my story. And immediately they jumped into action to help me. So once they get a better understanding of my case, I am advised that it's going to take between 6 to 9 months for the immigration documentations be mailed out to me. I'd never been homeless before. So this experience was completely new to me. I slept in places I never thought I would actually sleep. From homeless shelters to airports to this very park that we stand today. So close to the 9 months, I went back to IDignity, and one of them said, "We've got something for you." So one of IDignity's representatives takes out a legal-size envelope, and in it, it's all the documents I need to get my driver's license. And thanks to IDignity, I now have a flourishing company I've had now for 8 years. I employ over 17 employees. I have 7 beautiful interns from local colleges. I have an office in Miami, a satellite office in New York. I represent major recording artists again. I do concerts locally in a beautiful place I call home.
It shouldn't be lost on people how important identification is. The good thing about IDignity is they have all the partners in place. So it's another great example of what we do well here in Orlando, which is partner and collaborate to meet the needs of our citizens.
An organization like IDignity needs people like you. They need your help to exist, to help individuals like me regain their identity, to regain their life. So I thank those previous to you, those who continue to help IDignity, and those who are willing to help IDignity today. Because without your help, without you, I wouldn't be standing here today with my ID. My name is Axel J. Someillan, and now I can prove it.
Thank you, Axel, for sharing your story. Can you imagine that? You're going through life, everything's going swimmingly, and all of a sudden, in an instant, a gun to your head, and then you lose the ability to prove who you are for 8 to 9 months. You lose your place in the world. That's why we have IDignity. That's why it's great that people like the mayor understand IDignity is out there. IDignity fills a void that no one else in this community is filling. And right now, we want to invite you to be a part of IDignity's mission. We have some special guests with us right now, Pastors Keith and Megan Pittman of Celebration Church of Orlando. They are going to invite you to join us in helping IDignity fulfill its cause. I'm going to stand by and be ready.
Hello all. I want to take a moment to thank every one of you for taking some time to listen and participate today. Ever since we were in high school, Megan and I, we've had a passion with helping people. We really felt like it was important for us to do our part with making a difference.
Yeah, and as pastors of a church located in downtown Orlando, that passion has substantially grown. It is our heart's desire to have an impact in this amazing city. This is why we have decided to partner with IDignity.
Absolutely. You see, you remember, Megan, when we moved here about 2 years ago, we were quickly acquainted with the needs of this community. We would come across people in need, and we would do our best to share the generosity and kindness that our faith compels us to do. And while those individual moments, I believe, were really impactful, we knew we wanted to be part of doing something that transcended a single day or a transaction. We wanted to sincerely help people to move forward with their lives.
We first learned of IDignity a little over a year ago after one of our church services where we shared our heart for the city and how we wanted to be a part of the solution. We had a meeting to get a better understanding of the organization and the part that we could play in actually helping to be agents of hope and restoration, as Michael mentioned earlier.
This is true. And when I hear moving stories like Axel's, it reminds me of the parable that Jesus taught. You know, he shares about how this man came across robbers and they took his resources, they took his identity. I would even go as far as saying that they took his dignity. And scripture tells us that he was left half dead with little hope. And what happens next is truly fascinating to me. Others see the man and really don't do anything about it. However, another man, a Samaritan, sees him. He springs into action. He is moved with compassion. He goes to him. He helps him with his injuries. He gives him a place to stay.
Wow.
And the beautiful thing is he actually paid for it.
Wow.
Let's recap that. He sees him. He goes to him. He helps him. He leads him to his next steps. And he gives generously.
Simply put, the Samaritan man gave of his resources in order to restore the man's dignity. I believe this is an opportunity for all of us to do the same thing.
Your contribution, it has the potential to literally save someone's life. On average, it costs about $300 to serve each client. We're asking you to kindly consider partnering with us with that contribution. It makes a world of difference if we all can just do our part.
Like Axel, like the man from the parable, we are all vulnerable. A series of unfortunate circumstances has the potential of impacting any one of us. Everyone deserves a fresh start. However, for some, the fresh start requires a starting point. Scripture tells us of the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Megan, you know that we've been saying recently that when something stirs our heart, it should activate our hands.
Yeah.
I believe that all of us can play our part, and this is how we can help. You can be an advocate because we could really use your voice. You could be a volunteer, but you can also give financially. You can support at an individual level. You can give a one-time gift. You can give monthly. You can give quarterly. You can give yearly. Your next step is this. Go to idignity.org/super to get more information and partner with us financially.
Yes, and people are priceless. So what is the price that you would pay to change someone's life? Like the Good Samaritan, we have an opportunity to restore dignity and hope.
Again, when something stirs your heart, it should activate our hands. And my hope is this, that all of our hearts are stirred for the most vulnerable among us. If we each do our part, we can truly give someone a fresh start. God bless you all, and God bless our community.
That was great. Thanks for everybody's help tonight. Everything has been a lot of fun. Well, everything except for one thing. You guys took a little while. My soup got cold. I'm going to fix that. Before I do, though, I want to thank everyone who made tonight possible, namely our big sponsors, the City of Orlando and Advent Health, also Orlando Meats, Swine & Son, the Tap Room at Dubsdread, Central 28, and ABC Fine Wine and Spirits. We could not have done this without them, and we could not have done this without you. Thanks for being here. I would tell you to drive home safely, but I think most of you are already there. And we'll be back for our next super duper fundraiser, maybe even in person. And remember, you are this community's superheroes.
Go IDignity! Woo!